Mr. Speaker and colleagues, on this third day of April in 2020, just after the midnight hour, we are here to debate on the budget. We understand that this is the beginning of a new fiscal year in New York State. It's upon this day where this may seem like it's just April for others, but this is a chance for us to set a new beginning. It's for those of us with the awesome responsibility to ensure that our budget reflects our values and it reflects our priorities. It's that time after extensive negotiations where consciousness may wane out of fatigue, but we should not lose our conscience. April is when we re-begin our fiscal work in the people's house to ideally help someone stay in their own house. It demonstrates the reality that we must reflect on what has occurred before our arrival in this august chamber to understand the history of past decisions, to instill the clarity on future actions. What happened in the past prepares us for tonight. Courage is displayed in the moments of great discomfort. Courage is doing what's right even when it's not easy. Recognizing the great Reverend Dr. Johnny Green in Harlem, mobilizing pastors and communities, he said often that when you reflect on ancient Greek timing, they had two different words for time: chronos and kairos. Chronos logically tied to chronological order of sequential time. But kairos is what's quite appropriate at this hour in our lives. Kairos means moment. What shall we do in this moment is what shall define us for our future. In the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, and we understand that lives are being lost by the minute, we pause to thank the healthcare heroes and the grocery workers and the airport workers, educators, transit workers, communication workers, first responders, all those in public sector, the family members that are all wondering if they'll make it another day. We say thank you. But we must realize that the pandemic of poverty, of health disparities, educational insecurity, and criminal injustice existed long before this virus hit our shore. Unfortunately, many of us feel that the vaccine for this illness of coronavirus will arrive far faster than the ailment for the poor. It's in this moment where we must truly ask ourselves, what is more important, rushing to vote on a budget when many of us are afraid of being paid for a day, or rushing to lock up more black and brown folk who get paid cents in a day? We must reflect on time and moment and are recognizing in unison that there is that order that brings us to tonight of the moment, that kairos moment for courage and justice. For students, our seniors, our humans behind bars, this budget bill is not justice, it is the justification of continuing 401 years of injustice. All of us are excited when New Year's arise, yes, either in a calendar or fiscal, but you have to realize that within the Black community, there's a deeper reflection when we think about the stroke of midnight. See, December 31st, 1862 was the night that Black folk thought we were gonna have freedom. Frederick Douglass spoke of it in saying it was a day of poetry and new song. These cloudless skies, this balmy air, this brilliant sunshine, making December as pleasant as May, are harmony with the glorious morning of liberty about to be dawned upon us. You see, we thought by the stroke of midnight there would be justice. That's what we felt a year ago. We understand that when you think about January 1st and sometimes in other manners, emancipation, freedom, liberty, all because of a politician following justice. But you understand that when it comes to criminal justice, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to achieve that. It took them a few extra years to June 19th of 1865, when the announcement of abolition has finally occurred for our brothers and sisters in Texas. It led to the emancipation of those that were there. Now you're asking me, how is that tied to what we are discussing on tonight? You have to understand that the actions are typically rooted in sustaining injustice and oppression. See, 1 year ago, we took the steps to finally provide bail relief and speedy trial and open discovery, following upon the actions of raising the age. But ironically, in Time magazine in March 6th of 2019, a powerful article was written that is also appropriate for today. How did the United States get its police force? Gary Potter, a crime historian, stated, quote, "First, the publicly funded organized police force were officers in full-time duty in Boston in 1838. Boston was largely about shipping as a commercial center. Businesses had hiring people to protect their property. But in the South, however, the economics that drove the creation of the police forces was centered not on the protection of shipping interests, but the preservation of the slavery system. Some of the primary policing institutions that were there were slave patrols, tasked with chasing down runaway slave revolts. Potter said that the first formal slave patrol was in 1704 in the Carolina colonies. During Reconstruction, many local sheriffs functioned in a way analogous to the slave patrols before that. See, I can acknowledge, yes, there may be legitimate quality within this legislation, but to the governor and the state senate, you have put forth legislation tonight that is more about maintaining criminal injustice than keeping people alive. I'm just asking for a Kairos moment of courage and justice. In the midst of a public health crisis, where as of today, close to 52,000 people have tested positive in New York City, with 9,400 cases in the Bronx, we should be investing in keeping people home, not locking them up. Yes, I can acknowledge quality items such as diversity in medicine scholarships. Yes, I can acknowledge things that are happening, but I cannot justify how in a public health crisis we are cutting Medicaid. How in this moment are we actually saying that it's easier to put people behind bars than to give them hope? We should be getting people more personal protective equipment to our health professionals so they can don a uniform of pride and honor rather than changing and having bail rollbacks so we have more black and brown folk donning on a uniform that will take them into prison cages. Jails are effectively petri dishes of spreading illness, of dormitories. There's no possible way that you can be safe in that kind of environment. It's stated that hundreds of people in the Department of Corrections orbit all have been contracting and testing positive. It's close to 9 times higher the rate of what we're seeing at Rikers and other places. Alcohol as a contraband. Dr. Ross McDonald said very simply, it is a cruise ship recklessly boarding more passengers each day and issued an ominous warning that a storm is coming. A storm. That is what's happening when we lock up more people. A storm. That's what happens when you don't invest in public housing. A storm. When you don't give more money for education. A storm. When you have the audacity to cut Medicaid. That is what's happening. And this is not theoretical for me. See, I am someone who's had 2 brothers incarcerated, a mother who's battling asthma right now, was the person who represented Khalif and his mother as my constituents. So colleagues, simply put, every arrest during the coronavirus pandemic is a death sentence. Plain and simple. I'm asking for that Kairos moment of courage and justice. How do you justify cutting Medicaid at this hour? How do we go back to the Bronx, to Lincoln Hospital in Bronx, Lebanon, Montefiore, all the things that are there and say we're cutting you right now? How do we say to the students who don't have sufficient funding for their tablets and their laptops that we're not getting you more? But how in good conscience do we have the audacity to lock up more black and brown folk, put them in jail, and know that they will die? Why are we here? A vote yes is saying that you're fine sending more black and brown people to jail. A vote yes is declaring that you are in good conscience ready to see us die. A vote yes is saying you don't believe our lives matter. A vote yes is that you're comfortable with the reality that when you see freezer trucks that are serving as morgues, imagine what it's like at a jail. A vote yes is synonymous to supporting modern day Rockefeller drug laws. A vote yes is supporting a modern day crime bill. A vote yes is saying simply that you don't care about black and brown folk. Governor Pritzker said in Illinois, the decision is about life and livelihood. It seems here to me that the decisions being made for some people about an election versus eternity, about re-election versus restoration. It is clear to me that some people are more comfortable banking on black and brown folk to go vote for you than to go protect us. It seems to me that there's not that kairos moment of courage and justice. I hope that me speaking these words won't lead to me not getting the support that I'm supposed to get, like all of us are supposed to get. I hope it won't mean that we won't get the hand sanitizer, which ironically are being made by those that are incarcerated. I hope it won't mean that you will feel too uncomfortable to talk to me about what is true and real right now. But I hope you may feel that knot in your stomach and in your throat, not from a physical illness, but more from your conscience kicking in. I hope that you feel that sense of conviction that something is not right. A vote today could lead to one person being locked up and losing their life in 90 days, the continuation of racism and sexism and criminal injustice. Rather, it should be easier for someone to go across a graduation stage. I salute you, Speaker Hasty, because you stood up when so many others would not stand up. We thank you for pushing back against morally reprehensible, unconscionable, inhumane proposal that came from the state Senate and the governor. But I have to say, this is not right. It should not be this easy to lock up more people. Why? Because our people already felt they were socially distant from justice. Why? They felt like politics wasn't working in the first place. Why? Because they felt that the mask of injustice was more present than the mask we're getting for our nurses. Why? They feel like this is the continuation of the new Jim Crow. There should be no rollback on bail. All of this, we must ask ourselves and say, why are we here in good conscience? So imagine this, 90 days. When we think about, as Congressman Cedric Richmond has said, that it could be the generation's Vietnam, instead of preparing for summer vacations, preparing for educational commencements, you have people that will be preparing for jails and courtrooms. So in 2020, this vote will lead to locking up more people. It won't lead to more money for public housing, not more money for schools, and will lead to us cutting back on Medicaid. Where is our kairos moment? So in the words of Walter McMillan in the movie Just Mercy, where you feel like you are guilty from the moment you are born. In the words of Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, where your own existence is resistance. Sometimes there are moments that are more important than a vote. Sometimes when you decide on things tonight, it's more important than your paycheck and your election. This might be my final time standing before you, and there is no way in good conscience I could vote for a bill that is going to lock up more black and brown people. It is wrong. I'm asking for your kairos moment. I'm asking for that John McCain moment where you walk on down and you do what is right. I'm asking for you to be that legislator who understands that your friends and family may not look at you in the same way. I'm asking for you to understand that this is what you're supposed to do when it's not easy. For at the ultimate banquet table up in heaven, when the sheep and goat are separated, they will ask you, did you feed me when I was hungry? Did you clothe me when I was naked? They're not gonna ask you, did you lock up folk when you had a chance to vote on the budget? And if they do, be correct in that vote. Have the courage to do the right thing. Do not vote out of a place of fear. Vote for life. Vote no, so that people have a chance for freedom. Vote no, because it's our time to speak up for our people. Vote no, because for so long we have not a chance to live. In the words of Brian Stevenson, the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. Tonight, colleagues, you have a chance to come down here and do the right thing. I am asking for you to live out that moment of kairos, of courage, of justice. Vote no, so our chance for our people to live is a yes.